What's up, thuggies? Today I decided to quickly go over how to decal parts with decals you could get from our website. Now, over the years, we've had a lot of people asking us how to actually apply decals, or people ordering decals without actually realizing what they are. So today I'm going to explain to everybody what decals are, how to apply them, and how to get them to look good. And it's actually a really simple process, but it can be time consuming at the beginning. Now, if you've ordered from our website from any time within the past year, you've likely gotten one of these decals. And basically, how it works is it's a water slide decal. So you just cut out the torso, soak it in some water, and then you slide it onto an actual Lego part. And everything that you'll need for that is a pair of tweezers, some scissors, obviously, or anything else you could use to cut it out, some water, and a sponge is optional. Like, I've literally used like my shirt before, but a sponge is preferred. Also, optionally, a paintbrush, and I'll explain why later. So cutting out the decal is pretty easy. You don't gotta be crazy with it. I usually try to get as close to the printing as I possibly can, just so that way there's no excess. You're just gonna wanna cut out the size of the torso pretty much. Alright, so this is what a torso would look like. Then once you have it cut out, just want to get your water. You should put on the tweezers. You know, I mean, you just got to dunk it in there. And then usually you let it sit in there for, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Anywhere from like 15, 20 seconds to maybe a minute. But usually, in my experience, the smaller the decal, the faster it'll be. So this one, it's probably been long enough, just me talking. And then let's see, if it slides off a little bit, yeah, so you could see that's how it'll look like once it slides off. Now, you could just set this aside for a second if you wanted to, or you could apply it directly on the thing. But what I'm about to tell you is usually what I like to do is I like to brush a little bit of water onto the torso before you apply the decal, just so that way it slides around at first. Then you get your part, and then you slide it off a little bit. And now, if your decal is too wet, it'll sort of droop down and stick to the paper. You don't want that. You want your decal to be relatively dry before you apply it. That's also why I like to put a little bit of water on my torso. Then with the tweezers, just pull it off, and you can see. Now, I think my torso wasn't really wet enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and wet it a little bit more. And don't be afraid to get under the decal while wetting your torso. I will say it requires a little bit of finesse, and it is a very time-consuming process at the very beginning. Like, I think the first decal I ever did probably took me about 30 minutes for a full figure. But don't be discouraged if you mess up. That's just part of decaling, you know? Alright, so you could see, you want to get it as centered as you can, obviously, but, I mean, just get it to where you're happy. You can use the tweezers to center it. Alright, and then once you got that, you're going to want to, usually with the sponge, because you're going to want to sponge down, usually I try to get it from the bottom up. And the sponge usually misaligns it. It didn't really do it that bad, but if it does, don't worry about it. You could sort of align it a little bit with your fingers. And then if it is really misaligned and you can't move it, usually what I'll do is I'll try to peel it up a little bit. You can see that. Then I get the brush. And I just try to get under. It's kind of, like I said, decaling requires some finesse. There we go. And also, don't worry if your decal folds under, because that's another thing. You could go under with the brush from the other side and try to unfold it. Obviously, I think this decal was pretty aligned before, and I kind of just messed it up, but I was just giving an example. Looks like I got some fuzz under my decal too, which you could also try to combat that with the brush. Again, try to go under there, but I don't really care because I don't think I'm going to seal this decal. I'm probably just going to, you know, peel it off. This was just an example. But that's how you would actually apply the decal. Now, a few other tips. There are products that are specifically made for if your decal is being difficult. This is called Micro Set. I actually don't really use it that much anymore, but I used to all the time. Essentially what it does is it softens the decal and it improves adhesion. I'm pretty sure it's literally just vinegar, which is kind of funny. But you would just dip your brush in this and you would put it before the decal, but I'm pretty sure you could put it on after. I don't really see much of a point, but It's just kind of what I've heard. So maybe if your decal is still kind of being difficult, it's not sticking properly, you could apply a little bit of microset on there. I don't think you would usually apply it like this. This decal is pretty much firm on there, but let me give another example. All right, so here I have one of our double layered decals, and you can see that it has 2 layers. It has a white layer and then the layer with the printing. And I think with something like this, the microset would actually be really effective. And let me show you how. And now with this decal specifically, I've actually cut out like all around the printing. Like, you don't got to go all out, you know? Like, this is just an example, obviously. If you wanted it to be perfect, maybe you would, but it'll look fine either way. Now, the white layer decals tend to look better on colors that are more dull and less vibrant, just because the white obviously isn't perfect, much like Lego's white. And you'll see once I put this decal into the water, you'll see the white a lot better too. Actually, usually after I take a decal out of the water, I kind of like to pat it down for a second. If you have a paper towel, this is just my mouse pad. It's pretty messy, but... And then I'm going to show you what happens whenever you do it without the paintbrush. You can see it's just stuck on there pretty much. You can't really move it around. All right, position it. Now, I will say the white decals specifically are pretty challenging for, like, I'd say they're, like, probably some of the hardest decals I've ever applied. Mostly because you can't exactly tell how it'll turn out once the other decal is on top of it. You kind of just got to eyeball it. I'm going to sponge that down. That's pretty much dry. All right, and then this is where I'm going to use the micro set. You'd put it on top of this decal, so that way the other decal will stick on it better. Apply. Just got to take your time with it. Look at that, man. That actually looks really good. All right, and then, now, don't get frustrated if you sponge it and it's just completely messed up. Because that's happened to me a lot, where I'll sponge it afterwards and the decal will just become completely misaligned. Yep, look at that. That looks really good. Now, especially with these white decals, you could get some really good results. Like this figure that I was showing at the beginning, this is a decaled figure. So don't underestimate a decal. You know, some people will exclusively collect pad printed parts. Some people will exclusively collect UV printed. But the thing with decals is since they're so easy to produce, you just get a lot more designs and they look good. Like this, to me, I think rivals UV printing. Now, there is actually one final step to decaling. In this part, there are a couple different methods, and that's the sealant. So once you have your decal good and you're happy with it, I usually use a spray-on sealant, but there are brush-ons, and I actually used to use one. The one I would recommend is microgloss. Essentially, you just dip it into dip a brush into the microgloss and put it on your decal. For this tutorial and for time's sake, I'm going to use a spray-on clear coat. So let's take this outside. This is the clear coat that I use. Rust-Oleum clear ultra cover gloss, whatever. It's a great clear coat. I highly would recommend. Now, I usually try to do this in just 1 or 2 coats, but usually you'd want to go light. I do not. I usually go heavy. All right, you can see, and that'll hold up for as long as you have the part. You won't ever have to put another clear coat on that, hopefully. All right, and once you're back inside, just set it somewhere safe that it can dry, and then you have a awesome custom Lego part. Now, obviously, there are more complex decals than the ones that I just showed. Like, those were all torsos, but there are decals like this, like our Clone Trooper decals, which are full minifigure decals, and those could take a very long time. I would recommend starting with just the torso decals, because we do have a good selection of those on the shop, especially for Lego Indiana Jones, because torsos are easily the most easy decal to apply. They're the quickest, easiest to cut out, and everything. I'd say legs are probably the hardest. Legs or heads, especially the double layered heads. Those could be very difficult sometimes, because I've noticed that the round shape of a head just does not like working with you, especially on the double-sided decals. Now, I guess I'll give a quick example of a head decal and how the microgloss works. I mean, it's all pretty self-explanatory at this point, but usually, always, whenever I recommend a head, I almost always try to put it on a torso. Even if it's just like a placeholder or something, like it's just way easier to freaking decal. I'm gonna do a double-sided decal. I got these green ninja heads right here. These aren't even on the shop yet. I just kind of printed them out for fun. Now earlier I said you're going to want to cut as close to the printing as possible, but with the heads I kind of just cut out what I think the head shape is going to be of the actual decal. That way if you ever need to adjust it, it'll be a lot easier, especially if you cut out the secondary decal smaller. I'd say that the head decals that have the white layer probably are the hardest decals we have to offer. Some of our other harder decals are probably the Clone Trooper helmets, specifically the pilots. They could be pretty difficult to work with sometimes as well. Brush a little bit of water on there. Now, another thing that I've done before is actually I won't even brush any water on it at all. And what I'll do is just actually put the decal like directly on the part as I'm applying it, like sort of like this, and that'll just naturally get water on it. Yeah, see, like that looks perfect, but as soon as you sponge that, it's gonna be far out of place. Just has to do with the shape of Lego heads. Now again, usually I like to do, well with these I like to do top to bottom because obviously you can't really do that with the torso. So I usually press pretty far into the sponge and just kind of work my way down like that. Okay, that's actually pretty good. See, so if you take your time with it, it's really not too bad. Again, I usually don't use the micro saw, but I mean, if you have it, you know, and you want to use it, you might as well. This is just water on that brush. The nice thing about the white decals though is you can see exactly where the other face is supposed to go. Just line that up. Something like that. It always kind of stresses me out sponging him. Okay, that one actually was not that bad. Alright, now you're going to want to be really careful. If you're going to take this off, you're going to want to be careful because I've tried to, you can't really twist it that well, otherwise the decal's going to come off. But in this case, since I'm just using the micro gloss, that is actually one advantage I'd say that the micro gloss has. Now obviously you're not going to need that much, like it's not even dripping off of this brush, it's just kind of on there and you're just going to want to brush it on. And obviously you're going to want to cover the entire decal just like that. Then you just let that dry just like the other stuff. So after the process, you're obviously going to have a lot to clean up. You're going to want to wash all your brushes, especially if you used the micro gloss. But, you know, you could get some amazing figures that you just won't see anywhere else because obviously like stuff like this is a painted figure with a decal over the paint. So nobody could print on paint because it's just really not much of an option. So if you want figs like that, decals are the way to go. But anyway, guys, I hope this video helped you. Let me know if there's anything else you think I should go over. Maybe I can make a follow-up tutorial on doing legs and stuff like that. But yeah, make sure to shoot us a message if you have any cool decals you want to showcase. And thanks for watching.